Welcome to Money 911, where we don't just talk about money, we talk about your life, your legacy, and your limitless potential. Today's episode, it's a wake-up call for every soul who's been told you're too late, that dreams passed you by, you've missed your shot. Wrong. I'm here with Bill Boone, a man who walked away from high-level corporate success at IBM and Oracle to become a fire starter for dreamers, creators, and everyday people ready to rewrite their story. He's helped thousands start and scale real businesses online. No gimmicks, no shortcuts, just truth, strategy, and heart. This episode will dismantle your excuses, flip your fear into fuel, and hand you the roadmap you didn't know you needed. So buckle up, because if you've ever whispered, maybe it's too late for me, this is the moment your new chapter begins. All right, Bill. So glad to have you here.
Glad to be here.
You know, you've led some massive teams and sold over 100 million in products. But was there ever a moment where you felt like you had to start over? How did you move through all that?
Well, a lot of it was that a lot of this was in the Bay Area in Silicon Valley in a lot of the early days. I mean, I worked at Oracle before the big towers were built, and my office was just 4 doors down from Larry Ellison's. I worked when Sun was a small company, when Cisco was a small company, all these companies that are now, multi-billion, trillion-dollar companies, Apple, they were all startups then. And so it was an exciting time to be in, the Valley and in that area. And so a lot of what we were doing was sort of creating history, because a lot of these products were the brand new products. I mean, when I started at IBM, the personal computer was announced when I was a student intern before I actually started my career there. So, so I can I go back to the very beginnings of the PC.
Right.
And watching the things evolve, were that, and one of the products I used to sell was a disk drive that had 256 megabytes of space. 256 megabytes, that's MB, not gigabytes. And the thing is, and that thing used to cost $800, $900,
Mm,
where now you can get a gigabyte, for $8.
right. Right.
And
Right.
so it's just, so I've got to watch the whole technology in Silicon Valley grow from pretty much seedlings to so much of everything that it is now,
Right.
worldwide.
So this is, it's so elusive. Like, what would you say the biggest lie people believe about online business, and what's the truth that flips the whole game?
Well, the biggest thing is that there are so many options. So the average person, they'll see maybe an Amazon store. They might see a Shopify store. They might see a Etsy store. They might see all different kinds of stores where you can sell something. That's one version. Then they see people write books and do online courses. Then they see people put together, seminars and webinars. Then they see people selling themselves in terms of being influencers, or people are coaches. And so there's all of these different venues and we get hit by all of them, because as we're consumers, we consume these. I mean, whether you buy a course that you use, something that might be useful to you, whether you're watching videos on YouTube, whether it's, could be something as simple as how to caulk your kitchen wall, versus, how to sing and learn guitar. It can be all those things. And so because the options are infinite, and so many people pitching, make money, do this, I think, the message gets confused and people get overwhelmed. So more than anything, I find that the people that I'm able to help and what I'm able to do with people is I try to distill it to where that, let's start with you. Let's start with what makes you tick. What is it that you're interested in? What is it that you like? Because I can use myself as an example, where I started several different online businesses, A couple of them didn't make money, a couple of them did, and the one that was making the most money, I found the most unfulfilling.
Right.
And because it was working, I was making money, but it was a grind. It was more like it was worse than a job.
Mm, right.
And so I found myself putting in more hours and having less satisfaction, and it was making money, but not so much money that I could ignore that, and not enough money to where I could hire a whole big enough team to be able to manage it successfully so that I wouldn't have to do it at all.
Right.
So that, so I think that's part of it is this right now there's just so much confusion and so much noise out there. And you really need to start with what are your goals? What are your objectives? What do you want out of a business? Because if I look back at my corporate life, I worked with hundreds of entrepreneurs. I was always usually in the small business marketplace, and that was by choice. I didn't want to work with the big corporate data centers. I preferred working with the mom and pop that are trying to live their dream, and how that I could bring technology to help them make their business easier and able to grow faster, and so that's how, and educating them and, making sure that they're matched up to the right products that allow them to do that.
Right.
So in working with that group of people, I watched how that the ones that were most successful found they created a business that fit their lifestyle. Something that brought them joy at the same time they were able to serve their customers and their market.
Yeah. That's the real money there. The joy of doing something you love, and then you're helping people and you're making money too.
Yeah.
Most people think that they need more time and more money to start. What would you say they really need?
Well, I mean, you can start, here's the best thing about it. You can reinvent yourself at any time. I mean, I look at me. It's like I've retired from corporate life only to reinvent myself as an entrepreneur. Now, I've done some businesses along the way, and as an independent agency, insurance agent, I own my own agency and stuff like that. So I've been an entrepreneur before, and I've always sort of been one and had that in me. But, the thing is for people that are saying, look, I've worked in my life, or I've been a mom, or I've been, this and that, basically to reinvent yourself, all it takes is a new dream.
Right.
If you decide that you aren't done yet, if and you want to do something different, then that's the decision. Go for it.
Yeah, I realized, when I wrote my number one best-selling book and I had to wade through all of these, rabbit holes and different products and everything, I really lit up about your how you created the online success summit to cut through all the noise and consolidate, all the places you have to go. Because what I found was it took me 10 years ping-ponging off of all these different, gurus that knew about this that were all just money holes, really. And I never got to where I wanted to get to. And so you've created the online success summit to cut through the noise. And what are people not hearing that they need to hear?
Okay. Again, it's what starts out that if you're doing it for you or whatever your why is. So it ultimately comes back to, you know, if you want to do something different, why do you want to do it? Because the thing is, being an entrepreneur, as you know, is not the easiest thing in the world. We face failure and challenges on a daily basis. And so if you don't have a big enough reason why you're going to put up with all of that, then that's going to guarantee you're going to fail. Or it's going to guarantee, and a lot of people, that I've learned over the years, they don't even get to the failure stage of entrepreneurship. They just look at it and say, this is too hard, and they don't try.
Yes. There's like a, when you fail, there's a stall. It's just like a silent suffering. What would what would you say? What's the first small move that they could make today that would start to build that momentum back and give them that inspiration back again after they failed a few times, right?
Well, I think a lot of it can start with a little bit of introspection, where that, you can, and I do some journal, well, I do some work with people to help them figure this out as part of my coaching program. But so it might be figure out the times when you've been most happy. What were you doing? What was that situation? Why was it? And then to try to, what most people have never figured out is why was that a time of happiness? Why was that a time of joy? And then, so I've worked with people that realize that, like, oh, you know what? I didn't really think about it that way, but I was happy because I was doing this.
Right.
And a lot of people will start with that I was happy because I wasn't doing that. And and so to me, we try to reframe happiness to where that first of all, that's the focus. It's not, make it go what you're going toward, not what you're trying to go away from.
Exactly. It's like, let's get real. How do people know what kind of business fits their soul and not just their schedule or, and it isn't all about, I got to make all this money. It's changing the whole energy of where you come from, right?
Yeah, well, because like I've got a couple quizzes that I can offer people when they, look at, starting a new business, and that's to help them decide out who they are as a person, the things they like to do. Like, for example, like, are they data oriented or not data oriented? Are they outgoing? Are they introverted or extroverted? On what scale? Are they somebody that cares about details? Are they somebody that cares about whether they're famous or not? And so going through these different tests, then it sort of kicks out saying like, well, you're somebody that likes data. You're somebody that doesn't necessarily need to be the face of your business. You're somebody that's analytical. Then that's a perfect person for ecom.
Right.
Then if you look at somebody that says, okay, you're sort of extroverted, or you enjoy talking to people, or you want to be the face of your business, then that might be a podcaster. If you are, and then you can, there's about 9 different data points that we look at to where that we can sort of help people mix and match to the type of business that's going to ideally be the best fit for them. And then we go through a point of where we can help them launch that business and then have them give enough of a test to know that like, does this still feel good?
Right.
So
Right.
before they've committed all kinds of money and all kinds of everything else, let's just try it to see if it feels, if kind of like trying on a pair of shoes. Let's see if this business fits you. We think it should. It's like you said you're size 10. Well, this is a size 10 business. Let's see if this size 10 fits and feels good. Because we all know that sometimes a shoe of the right size isn't always the best fit.
Right. 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 I bet you've got some good stories of maybe a transformation that shook you that reminded you of why you do this work.
Well, I do. I can think of a couple situations, and I think I'm my best example. Because I mean I know that I was somebody who I tried. Let's see, what did I try first? I think oh geez, I don't even remember at this point. That's so many businesses ago. I tried a number of things, and ultimately though went to affiliate marketing, and then but I didn't know that But the thing is, I was doing affiliate marketing without understanding that traffic was the big thing you need because I didn't know the definition of traffic. I mean, traffic I knew was just people coming, but you didn't know how to get them. So that was
Exactly.
the thing that I didn't get out of that first thing. Then I said, okay, well, let's do ecom. Okay, well, then you get into ecom and then you find out that you got to manage all these inventories. You got to, worry about shipping and got to do all that stuff. So, okay, well, Amazon's going to be easier than ecom. So let's go to Amazon. And then Amazon tells you where they different want things, but then you get into Amazon and then well, when you buy at Amazon, there's a certain price you see, and that's called the buy box. Well, you get into Amazon, and there's multiple sellers on any buy box.
Right.
And then all of a sudden, somebody decides they're going to just dump the price to the very bottom. So then you end up, so it's a race to the bottom of price. So like then it's like what was once a profitable product is no longer a profitable product because people took all the profit out of it.
Hmm.
And so I can just talk about that, but I mean, but in terms of say, client, I mean, there's this guy named Alex, and he was a relative one of my younger clients. He was only probably about 30 at the time, um, and I had known him because he was a former employee of mine at another company. And he's sort of somebody that I took on a mentor employee role. We just sort of maintained touch after we both left the company, and and he was saying, trying to, what should I do, Mr. Boone? He always, no matter how many times I offered him, told him, call me Bill. I'm Mr. Boone to him no matter what. It's like, and so I just learned that after about 5 or 6 years, I just stopped correcting him. I just sort of said, okay, I'm fine. I'm Mr. Boone. And Mr. Boone, I don't know what I want to do. And I said, well, Alex, I know your different skills, because I've known you long enough, and I know the things that you sort of like to do have and I think and I mean and for him I also knew the things that he didn't like. I mean, he was one of those people that is very hard in a very structured situation. He was somebody that, as an employee, I always sort of had to keep some guardrails around him to keep him out of trouble and to keep him focused on doing the work. So, and so I said, so based on this, Alex, maybe you ought to look at and do things. And he was very artistic. He was very creative. He did a lot of, beautiful artwork and stuff like that. And so I said, well, look, have you ever thought of, monetizing your art? Why don't, you open up an Etsy shop, and you can start selling some of this stuff. And so long story short, that's what he did. And he's actually made a very successful store. He's making a good amount of money. Then he's used that to where now that he goes to different art shows and art wine fairs on the weekends and sells some of his art there. And so it's been a, very good journey for him. And, and he's doing something that he loves and he's making enough money more than for him. And so that's part of it. It's like, again, it's, there are going to be people, I've had clients that it's all about the dollar. It's like they want to, say, I want to scale to be a seven-figure, eight-figure dollar business. Great. Okay. Then here's what you're going to need to do. But then there's the other people that are just so frustrated and tired of doing the things that they've been doing that haven't been bringing them any joy or happiness. And so for those people, they start a business. And the thing is, the money is a benefit, but then they realize, like, hey, you know what? I really enjoy doing this. I'm making more money than my job. So why do I have the job anymore? And so, they're able to get that freedom that ultimately people are looking for in terms of, time and having options to, live the life that they want to live.
Right on. Well, if somebody's failed or stalled or just silently suffering, what would you say the first small move they could make today to start building that momentum again?
Well, first of all, make the decision that you're going to move forward. Living in the past or just living in a stuck place is going to keep you stuck. That's there. I mean, even people that are stuck know that. They know that, like, yeah, if I just keep doing this, I'm not going to get anywhere else.
Mhm.
It's all about how do you get some momentum. So how do you change the direction of what you've been doing and where you are? And it starts with a decision. That's the easiest thing. I mean, it's the easiest thing and it's the hardest thing because sometimes when you feel like you're neck deep in quicksand, the way to get out of the quicksand is you stop moving and you focus on how to get out. If you start swimming and moving, you're only going to go deeper.
Right.
So we start with the decision to move forward. And then after that, then it's like you start considering what are your options and pick one. Again, because like especially in terms of online business, one of the things that I find is hardest for people to get started on is because, and especially in this space with the way that once you identify yourself as somebody who is considering an online business, your email box gets full, all the pop-up ads on Google are going to be started business and everything else, and you're going to see hundreds and hundreds of offers, all of them seemingly better than what you're doing now. And
Mm,
so it's called shiny penny syndrome, you know,
right.
and that is that. So you'll see that, like, well, wow, this one didn't tell me the secret, but this one does. So I'm going to sign up for this one. Then you quit that one, say, because like this other one says, oh, these guys say they're going to do this. Oh, you know what? Oh, this one is like, I think I want to do
Um,
this one more. Oh, I like this better. Or, oh, wow, this one's freer. This one's cheaper. This one's going to give me more money. It's like, and you get so discombobulated that you don't know, you can't focus. So the thing is, the biggest thing I can recommend anybody, and it's what I recommend, and I had to recommend it to myself, is that start with one, see that one through, and then make a decision. Put the blinders on because it's hard. Because again, once you start that journey, your computer and your screen and every ad you see, it's just going to blow up
it
and give
does.
you new options.
Yep.
And so
Yep.
it's really hard to shut out the noise. And so that's the first recommendation is pick a direction and shut out the noise.
Yeah. Absolutely. Boy, I wish I would have heard you 10 years ago. I got caught in the shiny penny. And you know, it did. And never completing anything. You just go from one thing to another but just okay, do it and you make that step, all of a sudden all the doors open up and it's pretty exciting and it is like forging a new trail. If right now, what would success look like now from a heart-centered, legacy-driven lens? How do you build something that outlives us?
Well, it starts with, does it provide a lasting value?
Good.
Because that's really what it starts with. And so as I looked at it when I was in the insurance space, and in the financial space like you, and this has still been true, is that I know that my clients' children and grandchildren will benefit from the products that their parents bought from me.
Hmm.
And so, and I look at one situation, I was a relatively brand new insurance agent. It was on my first insurance job. And 6 months in, I sold an insurance policy to a young couple, and they lived in Half Moon Bay, California. And and so it was like a $600,000 policy. And he was working as a construction worker, and she was an engineer in San Jose. And so, high tech meets blue collar. It sort of was what the relationship was. But like they were elementary school classmates. They became high school boyfriend and girlfriend. So they'd been together forever. So about a year after I sold him the policy, he was tragically killed in a car accident on his way to work. And so, and she didn't know what to do. She's obviously, because I mean, the only person she knew as in a relationship was him. And at this point, they had a 2-year-old and a 6-month-old in terms of children. And so, I went out, and because of there doesn't cause an accident. So I was able to take them like $725,000 check to take her. And so with that, she didn't work for a year because she was just trying to figure out, she was so distraught, she was so lost in life. And then so what she did ultimately did is she didn't go back to work as an engineer in Silicon Valley. She opened up a women's counseling center because that was initially her dream and something that she felt more fulfilled to do. And at this point, because that happened in, let's see, well, it was about 4 years ago that I found out that the son, who was the 2-year-old at the time, graduated from college with the money that was used from that insurance policy.
Right.
And I know that the youngest one, was in college because of the money that came from that insurance policy. So to me, so I have that example of the legacy that I could create from that. Even though I'm not in that business anymore, I still know I have lots of clients that I sold policies that are out there that can still be aided and helped. And if should they be blessed and live through the term of their policy, then that's going to be the final piece of their retirement.
Right.
So it's
You,
really exciting.
It is exciting. I'm really into the living legacy, and about halfway through my career, successful business. And then it was like, how can I take what I'm doing and create a give back to help other people? And so, and that just like, I think that gave me longevity because it just, being able to have, take what I enjoy doing and transform it into a way, because I see, millions of little people about to go off a cliff because they don't know about healthy money. So that gives me an inspiration that I'm helping people. And, I don't have to do this. I want to do it. It's so fulfilling and inspiring. You know, you're doing something really cool. Maybe just tell everybody, right now it's never too late to pivot, to grow, to succeed. Tell everybody what you're up to. You've got this online success program that you're doing, getting all these really cool people together, and it's pretty exciting. Maybe give us a little snippet of what's going on there.
Sure. Well, actually, it starts next week, and you can see the URL above me here, onlinesuccesssummit.com. So feel free to sign up. Um, the I've got, let's see, right now, 23, 24 speakers. And the things we're going to cover the mindset of an entrepreneur, because many people are, you've been in a corporate job, you've been in a job. So one of my speakers is going to talk about the transition from corporate life to entrepreneurship. I've got a couple other people that are going to talk about the mindset of an entrepreneur to help make sure that you understand that these are the strengths that will aid you and help you on an entrepreneurial journey. Then I've got some people that cover sort of topics of things that are involved in an online business, like email and marketing and strategy. And then I've got some people that cover specific things like affiliate marketing, e-commerce, writing a book, So I've got it covered, I think, on a couple different levels so that we can go to here are the different business models, then here are the different disciplines that you're able to use within that each business model is going to call on you to use. And then there's some things on the proper mindset to have.
All right. Well, name drop a couple of the people, not all of them, but just give me some name drops of who's there, and then tell everybody, again, how they can get a hold of this. This is going to be cycling for a few weeks.
Yeah,
This
well,
show. Yeah. Go
so
ahead.
how it runs is that like this summit here, it starts actually next Monday on April 14th for those people that are watching it before then.
Right.
And it's going to be live with Marshall Silver, the millionaire maker, world famous hypnotist. Gonna have Peter Sage, world famous international coach. Um, I've got Leanna Ling, who's famous in the online space. She works with a lot of big affiliate marketing programs, and she just sold one of her companies for buku bucks, and she's starting another company because she wanted to do something different. Um, I've got Leo Cannell of Seven Figures Funding, so that you're an entrepreneur and you want to start a business, but you say you don't have any money. Well, guess what? There's ways that you can fund your business. And so I've got two funding experts that are going to be able to give different personalities and different ways that they help people get their business funded. Um, I've got, let's see, there's a whole bunch of people here, but like you said, we've got other people that they become familiar with once you start in this space.
And you're going to be rolling this. This is going to be rolling. You're going to do this is the first of many that you're going to be doing, right?
Correct. And so the thing is, so for people who see this afterwards, and if you want to get access to the recordings, then
Right.
then there'll be a VIP program that you can sign up for, and then you'll be able to purchase the recordings and the stuff like that for this seminar. And one of the things that's unique about the seminar too is like we've got each speaker is giving a free gift. And so that free gift is either going to be for some cases it's a free webinar, in some cases it's a free PDF, in some cases it's a free book. So besides the fact that each speaker is going to be making a presentation to the summit, they're also going to be providing something of value that somebody can take and use that's actionable right now, that can back up the ideas that they have. So, for example, like in my VIP section, I've got things like, a business matrix so that somebody will be able to look at here's the most common types of online business, and here's sort of does it take a lot of money, resources required, as in money, high, low, medium, skills, unskilled to very skilled, and then level of skills, specific, non-specific, or learned, and so it'll take people through that they can sort of say, go, look, if here's the different things I'm thinking about, then to help, because again, the whole purpose is to give them shortcuts, to give them some guidance so that their online journey doesn't have to be as long as mine was, where I tried. And so you get the benefit from the fact that I tried 20 different online businesses before I settled on the one I like and the one that I find the most fulfilling.
That's a
And so
trailblazer,
I
right?
know about all the other models, and I can sort of give you feedback in terms of why they might work for you. And that's part of where the coaching program comes in, is that, I work with you, find out what you need to know. I mean, find out about you. What makes you tick? What is important to you? What are your requirements in terms of, like, are you a parent? Do you want to spend more time with your family? Do you need to spend more time with your family? Because right now you're not. Do you need to have a certain level of income from day one, or is it a bills, or can you afford to have a business that you grow to where that you'll end up with way more than what you wanted, but you won't get that on day one?
All
And
right.
so it's that whole try to find out where you are, and then from that perception of you, then it's like, okay, now let's match things up to where here might be your best options, and which one feels the best fit for you, which is that right shoe that fits.
All right. Well, this isn't just theory. This is lived wisdom for sure. Bill, again, tell everybody how they can get in contact with you.
Okay, so the best way is that they can go to the onlinesuccesssummit.com. That's onlinesuccesssummit.com and register. If you have any questions for me specifically, you can always write to me at bill@onlinesuccesssummit.com, and you can find me on Facebook as Bill Boone. And you can find me on Instagram as Bill Boone.
Bill Boone, blazing those trails. All right, brother. Thank you so much. It's been a blessing.
All righty, Kris, and thank you very much. And it's great service that you provide, because I know that having had a financial services past, the value that you provide to people and families, it's really it's so important. But what it more than anything, it's peace of mind. And especially as people get into retirement age, that's the last thing you need, is the fear about will you run out of money. And so the fact that you do what you do to make sure that people are protected and that they can, have that time and just worry about life and not having to worry about surviving, that's so key. And that's, the value that I think is really awesome that you do.
Thank you, Bill. That's my inspiration. Healthy money, happy life. Right. Thank you so much, and look forward to more.
All righty. Have a great rest of your day.
You too. Let this land in your spirit. It's not too late. It was never too late. You didn't miss it. You were just getting ready. What Bill Boone shared today is not theory. It's lived wisdom. From corporate boardrooms to heart-centered summits, he's seen what it takes to turn a spark into a fire, a dream into a destiny. If there's a whisper inside you that says there's something more, follow it. You don't need permission. You just need the right path. So go explore the Online Success Summit. And remember, this episode isn't just a podcast. It's a pivot point. Thank you for tuning in to Money 911. We're not just building wealth here. We're building lives that light up the world. There's so much to learn about healthy money. I hope today's discussion brings you one step closer to securing and protecting your future. So you can get started on the right foot, go to meetwithkrismiller.com and schedule your free financial fitness strategy session. Thank you for listening, and please subscribe to Money 911 so you don't miss our next episode, which includes health, wealth, and peace of mind.